Okay, we're live there, Mr. Chairman, if you want
All right.
to start us off.
Thank you. Good evening, and welcome to this meeting of the Deep Creek Watershed Board of Zoning Appeals for January 20th, 2022. The meeting is now called to order. At this time, we ask that you please turn off all cellular devices. I am Board Chair Bruce Swift. The board members in attendance tonight are to my left, Michael Beard and Steve Nagy. To my right, Bill Ingram and Zoning Administrator Bruce Metz on here on the end. We are your Deep Creek Watershed Board of Zoning Appeals. We are appointed by the Garrett County Commissioners and we serve at their pleasure. The purpose of this board is to provide competent interpretation and full equitable application of the Deep Creek Watershed Zoning Ordinance. We have a quorum present tonight, so we will begin. Gentlemen, you should have received in your packet a copy of the minutes from our last meeting. If you have reviewed them and have no additions or corrections, I ask for a motion to approve as written.
Make a motion to approve.
We have a motion, second?
Second.
All in favor? So moved. Moving on to the public hearing portion of our meeting. This is a quasi-judicial proceeding. All board decisions are based on the provisions outlined in the zoning ordinance. The board respectfully requests that all who intend to testify tonight be familiar with the ordinance and limit their testimony to only information relevant to these proceedings as outlined in the ordinance. Any persons intending to testify tonight will be sworn in. For the benefit of those in attendance as well as those watching online, we request that you step up to the microphone
Over here.
when testifying. The order of tonight's proceedings for each case are as follows. The application will be read on record. Correspondence received by the zoning office will be either by written or electronic means will be read into the record. Testimony and exhibits, if any, will be submitted by the applicant or their representative, followed by testimony of other parties in favor of the application. Testimony and exhibits, if any, of parties opposed to the application will be submitted. At the conclusion of opposition testimony, the applicant will be given the opportunity to rebut. At this point, the testimony portion of our proceeding is complete and no other testimony will be accepted. The board will then enter into deliberation. The board has up to 10 days to render its decision if needed, but every effort will be made to come to a decision tonight. Decisions by this board can be appealed to the Circuit Court of Garrett County for a period of 30 days from your receipt of this notice. So at this time, I'd like to ask everybody that intends to testify today to raise their right hand. Do each of you swear or affirm to tell the truth in the testimony you're about to give? If so, answer I do.
I do.
All right, thank you. Mr. Administrator, you want to read our first case in?
First case tonight is an application submitted by James and Kelly Steele for a variance to allow the construction of a new accessory building to within 12.5 feet of the front property line. The property is located at 959 Lakeshore Drive, tax map 57, parcel 170, grid 18, and is zoned Lake Residential 1. And I believe Mr. Steele and Mrs. Steele are here to present that case. So you can step up to the microphone.
Would you state your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, sir. It's James Steele, 959 Lakeshore Drive, Oakland, Maryland.
All right, Mr. Steele, tell us what you'd like to tell us.
We want to install a couple of sheds, and then one of them, because of some trees, would have to be located within that 25-foot zone of the front line. And we have a couple of large trees, so if we were to cut down the trees, we would lose the benefit of the trees, so we'd rather keep those, and that's why we're requesting that the shed be a little closer to the to the front property line.
Okay.
So we had our surveyor come out, and I think somebody from the board came out today and saw it.
We visited the site today. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
So we had put some stakes out there so you could see it.
Do you have? Do you feel that you have any other options for locating this accessory outbuilding?
Well, it's also close to the driveway.
Mhm.
So we're trying to put about a 14 by 24 foot shed. So it would be tight to about 3 trees. But, you know, again, we financially, we could pay for having the trees cut down, but we'd rather keep them. They're big trees.
Mhm.
And we have a front line of evergreens along Lake Shore that kind of hide it, so it doesn't really appear to be that close to the
Right.
property line. And as well as our neighbor on the as you're looking at the house on the left where the shed is, they have a garage,
Mhm.
so it'd be kind of parallel to their garage.
Can I ask you what the intended use of these structures is?
We just moved up here full-time. We've had our house for about 15 years, and we just moved up here full-time, and I work from home, so I'd like to have like a separate space, like for an office.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Anybody else have any questions for Mr. Steele?
So the buildings will be plumbed and electric run then as well?
That's what we intend. We haven't done any real design yet because we had to, go through this process first.
Mhm. And lodging, will there be lodging in there?
No, we won't rent. We don't.
No, I mean for bedrooms or?
We haven't designed it yet,
Mhm.
so I don't really understand the process too well.
I see.
But we're using a local surveyor, Highland Engineering, so they've told us about some.
Mhm.
But again, my wife wants a shed for herself, and I want an office.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's a rather modest house on the lake, but it's it's only about 1,000 square feet. So we're always looking for more room.
Mr. Steele, also within the ordinance there, for any variance, there are 5 points that we need to have covered through this. So I'll kind of walk you through it a little bit, and we just need to get some things on record
Okay.
for the application. Step number 1 is that the granting of the variance shall be in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the chapter, shall not be injurious or alter the character of the neighborhood, will not impair adequate light, air, adjacent property, will not impair views from the adjacent property, or otherwise be detrimental to public welfare. And I can read each step to you, and then you can just reply with those, or I can read them all off to you.
Oh, well, I'll address the first one. Yeah, I don't think that there's any injurious action that the shed being located there would cause.
Do you feel that it might alter the character of the neighborhood having the two buildings on your property?
No, in fact, a couple doors down, there's one that's actually close to the front property line as well.
Number 2, the granting of the variance will not permit the establishment within a district any use that is not permitted in the district. In other words, it'll all be compliant with LR1 district ordinances.
Yes.
Yes. That one I already knew. The special circumstances or conditions fully described in the findings apply to the land of the buildings for which the variance is sought, which circumstances or conditions are such that the strict application of the provisions of the chapter would deprive the applicant of reasonable use of such land or building or create unnecessary hardship. And this is where we kind of get into the heart of this. Variances are to be sparingly awarded because we're going away from the intent.
Sure.
There are certainly some circumstances that we have heard as a board where we didn't believe it was the intent of the ordinance to get into it, but as the chairman noted at the beginning, this is the ordinance that we have to bind our findings to.
Yes, sir, I understand.
So within that, we're looking for a particular hardship that would be depriving you of the reasonable use of your property or land.
Right, so in order to be able to build a shed in that size, we couldn't fit, 25 feet from the front property line and stay within the trees on the left and the right and the driveway on the other side.
And that would bring me back to the chairman's first question to you, is do you believe that there are other options within your property for these buildings to be placed?
Only if we were to chop down some of these big trees.
Mhm.
Yes, sir.
Would that, in your estimation, fall into the hardship or a practical difficulty?
Yes.
Number 4 is the granting of the variance is necessary for the reasonable use of the land or the building. The variance as granted by the board is the minimum variance that will accomplish this purpose. It's not, shall not be considered sufficient proof or hardship to show that greater profit would result in the variance awarded. Furthermore, hardship complained of cannot be self-created.
Yeah, I can't say if it's self-created. I mean, it's our idea, but yeah, I think the only question is really that, because of the trees, that's all.
Right.
That's really where we can only fit it.
I would stretch that a little bit to my thinking is that, as you've mentioned, you've got approximately 1,000 square foot home, and now you found yourself to be in need of some more space.
Right, exactly, yeah.
Okay. The last one that I'll bother you with then is in the case of applications for variance involving, well, it actually doesn't pertain to yours, so we can just skip right past that.
Any other questions for Mr. Steele? Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else would like to speak in favor of the application? Anybody that would like to speak in opposition to the application? All right. Okay, we'll close testimony.
Deliberations now.
Yes, sir.
The only comment I'm going to make on this is the accessory outbuilding. That is what it's going to have to stay. It cannot become a living quarters on there. The plumbing probably will be an issue. You'll find out later down the road. Water electrical is not an issue with it on that. Personally, I don't have an issue with it if it stays an accessory outbuilding. I agree with, we were there today, the trees are nice trees. I see him have to cut his trees down in the area, and there's others around him that are within reason, same distance next to the road, especially all along Lakeshore Drive for that matter. So that's my comment.
I have a problem with it. I think I think there was some opportunity to place it down here next to the house, if they so chose to. There's already even though I guess it doesn't pertain, a non-conforming. I mean, the house is almost at zero right now to the property line here.
Mm-hmm.
I see the grinder and
The setbacks, remember, like 15 feet.
Yeah.
And that's going to throw him way over too far. Just pointing that out.
You don't think he has an option there?
No, I don't. Really, I don't.
Okay. Anybody else?
Well, when I read this request and it said shed, and I was thinking it's something that come in on the back of a Lowe's truck, but what we're really talking about is a permanent structure that's
Accessory building.
gonna have heat and insulation and electric and, I mean, I guess I don't have any problem with it. I don't know if he's gonna have to come back later for use and occupancy to the permitting. I mean, it's not really a shed anymore.
He will for sure. I mean, all we are to speak to tonight is the setback issue,
Right.
you know what I mean? So they'll have all those hoops to jump through still after he's done. with
Stormwater
something.
management, everything will have to go through before he's even.
Possibly fire protection, and you just don't, it just could be all.
Well, I don't have a problem with the setback.
That's right, the Allen problem setback.
Do I hear a motion?
I make a motion to approve for an accessory building.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I think I'm going to be opposed. See if we move to opposed.
Where do we go from that?
I'm not sure.
Next meeting with the non-law groups will always happen before.
And I know we're trying to work it out amongst us. We've done that before as well.
Yeah.
I don't know how steadfast you guys are. pretty entrenched in where I am.
You can table it for
We've got 10 days.
information.
Mm-hmm.
So we have 10 days. We'll just have to meet again within a 10-day period.
Yep, I'm afraid that's where we're at. If we're deadlocked, we have 10 days to make a decision. So we'll call it no decision tonight.
Yeah. We'll just have to schedule a meeting within the next 10 days before us.
Right.
Well, Bob's not around anyhow. He's out of the country. So,
As long as you have a quorum.
yeah, he's out.
So, Mr. Steele, I'm sorry, we can't come to a decision tonight. We're kind of deadlocked. We have, as I said at the outset of the meeting, we have 10 days to decide. So we are going to take those 10 days and see if we can come to a determination. But at this point this evening, I'm sorry, I can't take any more testimony or anything. So, okay? All right. Thank you.
You can send questions to my office, and any maybe further information that you might want to impose on the board before they make their decision. Okay? All right.
Thank you for coming in.
So the second case tonight is an application, VRA 26, submitted by Chow Trang for a variance to build a new single-family residence to within 21 feet of the rear property line. And this property is located at 175 Red Run Road, tax map 57, parcel 41, grid 17, and is zoned LR1 as well. And I believe Chow or Aaron is gonna.
Did we receive any letters on this, Mr. Metz?
We did. We have a letter from the Department of Public Utilities. According to the file drawing of the grinder pump on this property, it appears that the proposed structure may be close to the sewer discharge line. Please contact Mr. Utility prior to the excavation so that personnel can mark obstructions to the constructed or placed within the easement area that may limit or impede access. There must be 5 feet clear on either side of the discharge line, and that's the only thing they had of. Otherwise, they're fine with it. The health department answered my inquiry with their office is fine with the variance. And the DNR, as long as the structure is at the front property line, Lakeshore Drive, that's the wrong one, sorry. That's all for that one.
Is that all we have?
It is.
Okay, who's going to speak on behalf?
Me first. I have some supplemental information.
Aaron, can you stand up there and tell us your name and address?
Yep. I was only expecting 3, but luckily I made 4 packets.
Aaron, before you start, I'm sorry, I do have one more letter.
Okay.
This one is from Mr. John Joyce. Wanted to let us know that he received the plans and spoke to the owner. He understands it to be a 2-story house built within the existing footprint and on the slab of the previous structure. The variances requested is for the development to the extent of the state boundary with a patio, which I'm sure will be addressed by DNR. The remainder of the land will be left undeveloped. The applicant is aware of, and I will respect the applicant is aware of and will respect the deeded right of access across the property. I ask if the existing sidewalk will remain for our access to the stairs to the beach. The answer was that if not, a concrete walkway will be provided to the stairway to the beach for access. As long as these conditions are met, he and his wife Kathy have no objection to the granting of the variance. Sorry, I got kind of chopped up.
That's okay. Aaron Teets, Century Engineering, 10 North 3rd Street, Oakland, Maryland. So we did a location survey of the site, And it was a little bit of a mixed bag because there was an old building foundation and a concrete pad and a patio, as you could see on the plan. We weren't sure where all the limits of the prior structures were, because Red Run Lodge was removed prior to my client actually acquiring the property. So we submitted the plan, the architect worked up the plan, situated it on the site, and whenever we came back, we realized that we were closer to the rear setback than what the normal would allow. The old building foundation is what we're using as a grandfathered setback. So, you know, we determined we needed to apply for a setback variance. The setback variance that we're requesting is the rear, because in the front and the side, we have a utility easement. There's a overhead power line that's got a 30-foot easement that's basically restricting where we can access. You see that on the third page of the supplemental information. And then whenever we started doing some digging after we had to apply for the variance, we got some pictures of Red Run Lodge, and you could see the first picture in the supplemental information is an overhead that's actually from the county mapping from 2014. You could see that Red Run Lodge actually extended to the back and beyond the back of Red Run condominiums next door. That aligns with the concrete pad that we weren't sure whether it was part of the building pad or not. We were assuming it was just the old building foundation. Well, apparently they built onto Red Run Lodge, and when they tore it down, the part of the building that was on the concrete pad wasn't apparent. So we didn't show that as grandfathered. There's not actually a time limit on non-conforming structures. There's a 2-year time limit on non-conforming uses, and that's kind of a rule of thumb that gets used, but in the ordinance, there isn't actually a restriction on how long a non-conforming structure can be applied for a grandfathered use. So if you look at the picture, you can see that Red Run Lodge actually extended to, even with the back of the condominiums next door. If you go to the second page, you can see the pictures from the side of Red Run Lodge, Red Run Restaurant. And you can see that it extended back the addition. I think it basically cantilevered out over the concrete pad. And then the third page is basically the as-built location. The fourth page shows the building plans dropped into it. And the fifth page is actually, I took the county's GIS mapping from the 2015 planometrics, dropped it into the site plan to show where Red Run condominiums are, and it actually shows the footprint of Red Run's building, and you could see that we're still within the footprint of what Red Run's restaurant was. So even though we don't have a surveyed location of Red Run, we've got the pictures, we've got the concrete pad, and we've got the county's planometrics that show that we're staying in the same footprint. We're in a residential area with the condominiums, so we're building a house in the area that used to have a commercial restaurant, which if anything is probably a friendlier use for the area. It's not really impacting the sight lines compared to Red Run because it's the same location as where the restaurant was. She's already indicated that she can provide access if there's any damage to the sidewalk that runs across the rear for the condominiums. She'll replace it and make sure that they can continue to use it. If the buy-down were still available, she could actually get the buy-down and then meet the 10-foot rear, but she just acquired the property and buy-down's not an option for her. So there's a multitude of reasons why the rear setback, like one, is where we're actually not going as far as what it was previously. And then in the front, there's the architectural plans have the building and a retaining wall. There's some height issues there for the retaining wall and front access, which is what's pushing us in conjunction with the utility easements, kind of pushing us back off of the front. And we also don't want to get too close to the parking lot in the front. That parking lot actually gets used by Red Run condominiums. There's spillover parking, and she doesn't want to adversely impact Red Run any more than she has to during construction. Do you have any questions?
I have a couple. So it has always been my understanding that you only could benefit from a grandfathered setback if it was in the 2-year time frame. So what you're saying to me, it doesn't sound like what I understand. Now I could be wrong, but that's fine. On this drawing, page 3 and page 4, this orange line to the front of the building represents a retaining wall? is that
Yes,
so?
it's a retaining wall because there's some grade
That-
issues.
That's an
there.
existing retaining wall or one that you
No,
feel
it's a-
needs to be built?
It's a proposed retaining wall.
Based on the topo,
Yes.
you think it needs to be there to get the house to the
And if you look
proper
on
grade?
the second or third page, you can see the pictures of Red Run. And you can see the lower picture is kind of from the southwest looking towards the site, and you can see how much of an elevation change
You
there
can
is.
see the slope there. Yeah, you don't need that retaining wall to
Yeah.
keep the water from the parking lot to run down on you.
Right.
Okay. Okay.
So we're basically staying in the Red Run footprint and trying to stay away from the utility easement
Mhm.
and kind of staying with the feel of the neighborhood for Bill's 5 points.
So part of our, part of our, what we have to consider is that we're issuing these variances in a sparingly, and that the variances are the least we can authorize to get the job done. There's no way to turn the house a little bit and get less of a setback, or this little bump out on the lakeside here, that's kind of integral to the design. I mean, it's going to create a hardship to.
Well, I can't speak as much to the architectural aspect of it as I can to the site aspect of it.
Mhm.
And really, the site aspect of it is that Red Run established grandfathered setbacks that if we would have known initially, we would have shown those as grandfathered setbacks on the initial site plan and probably wouldn't even need to apply for the variance.
Mhm.
The problem is, once we had applied for the variance and talking with Chad Bruce, they pointed out that without a surveyed location of Red Run, it's hard to establish exactly what that setback would have been.
Mhm.
But you could look at the plan and even the county's planometrics to see that what we're doing is still staying within the limits of where Red Run was located.
Okay. Anybody else?
I'm with you. I got a little issue with the grandfather. I'm under the same impression you were
Well,
on that. And then the same thing, with, we really don't have a site plan of the original. Oh, no, I gotta think here.
Yeah, I mean, I see all that, but I also see a hardship with an
I'm with you on that,
uncommon
too.
amount of utility easements through the property and things like that, so I'm on the fence, so. All right, Aaron.
Let's just proceed.
Yeah.
Everybody's
You-
up to
that
Okay.
good? You good?
yeah, I think,
Okay. Anybody else would like to speak in favor?
Oh, I just wanted to.
You can speak in favor, just come up to the mic, please, and state your name and address for the record.
Hi, board members. My name is Chow Tran. I'm the one that applied, and I'm the one building the residential home. I just wanted to add that, in meeting with the architect, we really did want to just stay within the boundaries of what Red Run Lodge was, and even build smaller, because it was a very large compound. It was 7,000 square feet. And the home we're looking to build is simply about 4,500. And after purchasing the land, what seemed to be a very large land was actually quite limited due to the utilities that we found out after the fact. There were underground utilities and right-of-ways that did not allow us to move, anywhere further up front or to the sides. And so, I believe that's quite a bit of a hardship, and we did contact the utility company to look at possibilities of perhaps moving those utility lines. But they currently actively supply power to the condominiums in the area, and that would be a major hardship too. To do all of that, I don't know how long the area would be without power. And we want to limit the amount of disturbance as possible in building this home. I really just want to put a residential home up for my family's use. And when we're not using it, for others to enjoy the beautiful area, because it really is such a beautiful area, and it sat vacant for a very long time. And when I visited the land, it was just this concrete pad with weed growing everywhere, and it just doesn't add to the beauty of the area. I'm sure the residential people in that area can, testify that it wasn't kept. It was just barren, and so I do want to come in, put a nice single-family home up, you know, just add value to the area more.
We appreciate that. Okay. Anybody else like to speak in favor of this?
I have a question for you.
Please step up here and state your name, address for the record.
My name is Philip Kenny, 86 Broadway, Frostburg.